Okay, so it's at 2 o'clock, and then we're going to start the third session about the college admissions today. And I would like to welcome everybody who signed in today, and I really appreciate that you taking time to come and join our seminar today. All right, so today it's going to be the last part of the college admissions that I prepared. But today that I'm going to be talking about the college admissions process and also how we should look at the process of the college admissions in somewhat like different way. Now, part one and part two, I spoke more from the perspective or the aspect of statistics. So, you know, the rules or the regulations or the policies that most of the colleges go by. So, obviously, the GPA is the most important thing, and the test scores, and also the extracurricular activities. Now, however, there is another perspective or another aspect of college applications, and because a lot of students do not know about this, rather they know more about the statistics side. So, for example, like as I've always been saying, computer science and the engineering from UC Berkeley, UCLA, if you don't have like 4.5 GPA, then it's going to be pretty tough. And also, if you don't have like 1,500 on the SAT score, then it's going to be tough. So they get discouraged. But the college admissions is not all about the SAT scores or test scores or the GPA alone. Right? So today, I'm going to introduce you somewhat like a little bit different aspect of how the students' applications going to be reviewed. So the first thing is, I'll talk about the college applications, meaning that I'll introduce you what kind of college applications are there. And as I do that, I'll bring out some issues or the challenges in preparing college applications. Now, the reason that I chose that topic is because I've been helping a pretty good number of senior high school students to do their applications each year. And every year, I mean, if the students are like really top-notch profile, you know, students, then they would not have any problem like getting into any of the UCs. I mean, definitely, you know, their GPA is like 4.5 or higher, and their test scores are like a near, you know, 15, 17 on the SAT or perfect scores. So when I look at their profiles, I see that, I mean, they should not have any problem like getting into any of the UCs. But definitely, I mean, you know, they get more challenges from like Ivies or Stanford, MIT they apply for. But what my concern usually goes to, now this is not just for my college application students, but SAT, ACT students, and also the AP test prep students too. But especially during the summertime, when we offer like SAT and ACT test prep programs, my probably like most focus goes to the students who do not improve their scores very much during the program time. These are not the students whose the diagnostic test scores are starting from like, you know, 1450 or 1500. So these are the students whose diagnostic test scores are from like 1150. So it's like a 1200 under, and probably like a range like around like a 1250 or so. Some of the students that I met, it's just the test prep is like really hard for them, and so it's going to take a lot more effort for them to prepare, you know, themselves to do really well on the SAT and like all these test scores. I mean, the test prep that they were doing. Same thing with the college applications, because what you're going to see now, I'm going to introduce you. I'll share the websites for like the UC application, Common application, and also the coalition application at the end of the seminar. What you're going to find out is kind of like discouragement, and that's because it's just a few web pages, right? And then it's gonna show you, or you're gonna have to say everything about you and your achievement that you did for 4 years in your high school time. Just few the website pages. So that few pages is gonna speak everything about you, and the application reader is gonna read the application. And I don't want to use this word, but they're going to evaluate you based upon what you put in, right? So there's like another aspect. Now I'm going to talk about it a little later. So for those students whose GPA is not so strong, the test scores are not too strong, and extracurriculars are not too strong. So I always had some of those students as my college application students, and from like a starting point, they're not like really encouraged at all. So they kind of like knew that they can or they couldn't like really go to any of the pretty decent UCs, and they had to look for like state university and all that. So it was like really difficult for me to see them like not like encouraged enough, and that was because it's statistics, because that's the thing that is already deposited in their mind and brain, that if you don't have certain GPA test scores and extracurriculars, there's no way that they could go to like any of the UCs all that well. The things that I'm going to be talking about today, that could make a big change. All right, so I'll talk about the challenges in preparing college applications, and also I will present you the perspective of application readers as they review your application. So that's another like large portion that I'm going to talk about. And lastly, then I'll go to the website for the UC application and Common App and Coalition App, and we'll take a look at what those applications are actually look like. So same thing. So if you have any questions, then you could unmute your mic, and then please ask me the questions. Okay, I just unmuted all your microphones. All right, so there are those, or the 5 different types of college applications. So definitely UC Common App, Coalition App, California State application, and also there's private application. Now for the UCs, hold on a second. Now all UCs are going to use one UC application. So when you work on the UC applications, that you're going to see that later, then you're going to have to choose the UC campuses that you're going to apply to. So all the UCs are going to be using one UC application. And there will be 4, they call it personal statements, and that's college essays. So you're going to be doing 4 personal statements, and I showed you the UC essay prompts from 2019. So they gave you like 8 essay prompts from you to choose. So you're going to do 4 essays for the UCs, and each one's going to be 350 words. Now the reason that I put like activity list, as I informed you before. Now, UCs, they changed their application format last year. So right now, you have like 1,000 characters for you to describe what you did in high school as far as extracurriculars are concerned, per each activity. And also they give you like a 500 characters for you to describe what organization that you belong to, what kind of clubs that you're in, right? So it's a lot more intense. And deadline for the UC application, that's November 30th. And Common application, most private colleges use Common App, and you have to do 1 big essay, and the word count is up to 650 words. And the deadline, now that is per each college. I think the earliest one that you can do if you're doing regular decision application is USC scholarship application, which is going to be due on the December 1st, right? But most of the private college application is going to be due starting from January 1st. Okay, so many or the most private colleges are going to use Common App. And the next thing is Coalition application. Now, Coalition application separated from the Common App application or Common application. And that was because they thought, or some of the colleges or the private colleges thought that Common App was too complicated. So they made their own. So there are quite a good number of the colleges which use Coalition application. And also there are a pretty good number of the private colleges which use Common App, but they're also using Coalition App. So I think like, WashU, I believe. So there are a few colleges which use both, and choice is gonna be yours. This is just my personal opinion, but to me, or for me, I like Common App better than Coalition. Yeah, the Coalition, they say it's more straightforward, but somehow I like Common App better. But it's gonna go up to your preference. So private colleges such as like University of Washington, UIUC, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and also University of Texas, Austin, Texas A&M. Now all these schools are going to use the coalition application. Now they're going to give you 5 essay prompt choices, and you're going to have to choose one, and you have to write a big essay. So that's going to be 550 words. And also deadline for coalition application is for each college. Now, many students who do Common App, they repeat or recycle their choice of Common App essay to coalition application essay. So, and that's because the essay prompts are similar to each other. So when you do the coalition, if you want to write pretty much the same thing from the Common App, then that's one advantage that you're going to have. Also, the Common App has like 650 words word limit. So if you do Common App, it's going to be easier for you to reduce the essay size. So coalition app essay, usually it's kind of like a little easier than the Common App essay. Now, California state application. So this is for all California state universities and colleges. So all the Cal State University, like Bakersfield, Long Beach, like LA or Northridge, they all use the Cal State, and also San Jose State, San Diego State, and the Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. So all the state universities that use this. Now, fortunately, there is no essay required. So all the state universities, they're going to take a look at your GPA and SAT or ACT scores. Well, AP scores kinda, but they don't like really care about the SAT subject. However, if you're doing like in computer science or the engineering at any of the Cal State or the state university, then you should provide some the SAT subject test scores. That's going to help. Just to remind you, if you're doing engineering or computer science, then math to SAT subject test is required. Okay? The same thing as the UC application, the deadline for the Cal State is also November the 30th. Okay? So private application, so some colleges use their own application. So MIT, University of the Pacific, so they have their own the application. The essay word limit, it really differs from each college, but MIT, I believe, is around like 550. So I don't think it's under like 450 words. So usually it's around like 500 words. So if you're doing like 10 private colleges, now you're gonna be writing a lot of essays. And it's not just like big essay for like, UC App and Common App and Coalition App. There is one more. So if you're doing any like a private colleges, now some of the private colleges not gonna ask you to do supplemental essays, but many of them, so probably the ones that you choose might ask you to do supplemental essays. So there are like different topics under supplemental essays. And number-wise, it could be actually 0, but usually it's 1 to 11 essays. So think about doing 11 essays. And the only school which offers 11 supplemental essays, guess which one? It's Stanford. So Stanford requires like the most number of supplemental essays. And the supplemental essays, the word count or the word limit is starting from like 50 words up to like 20 to 50 or a little more than 20 to 50 words. So that's supplemental essays. Now there is one supplemental essay which is going to be extremely important. And I've seen many cases because this essay was not properly done that they got rejected. Right? So it's called a Y essay. So Y essay means that why you want to come to Harvard, why you want to come to Stanford, why you want to come to UIUC. So this is critically important. And to me, it is almost equally important as the Common App essay or like the coalition essay. Now, what this is that, let's say that you want to do bio at Princeton. Then Princeton's asking, okay, why you want to come to Princeton and major in biology? Now, typically, what students usually do is, because they never had any idea about this essay, so as they now are working on the Common App or Coalition App, and now they saw this, and so what they do is they check out the college website, and they go to that department of biology, they study all the whole thing, and they point out like any professors who are like really famous. So they jot down all this information, and based upon that information, they try to write the essay. So basically what they're trying to do is, okay, if I go to Princeton, and the reason that I want to major in biology in Princeton is because this professor who's been teaching there has such a fabulous or tremendous research work, and it's my dream to be under his like a leadership and do research with him because I'm interested in, let's say, DNA or something. Well, that's how the essays like supposed to be like. But if you do write like that, the chance for you to get rejected, I mean, not because of that you're gonna reject it, but it's not good. All right, so what you need to do, since I'm introducing you this why essay, you should visit the college websites, the colleges that you are interested in as of now, right? So if you're interested in like, the BU, the Boston University or NYU, and especially like you want to business major, then go and visit and be familiar with the campus. It's not just the campus lab, because I mean, some of the supplemental essays, they're gonna ask you to do like, okay, think about your own, like you're in MIU, how would your life be like? It's like absurd, right? But they really want to see, the reason that they're asking you to do the supplemental essays is, I think there are quite a few reasons, but one big reason would be that it's like they want to test you how much you know about the college, right? So it's just like this. I'm pretty sure that there are parents who are in like hiring the employees. Same thing with me. When I hire teachers, I usually ask the teachers, have you had a chance to check out our website? And do you know like who we are and what we do and all? Many cases, I mean, like the teachers, they don't bother to check out, but if there are like teachers who actually went and check out like eliteprep.com, our website, and now they're familiar with what we do, I mean, that really impresses me. Same thing with the college. So that's called the demonstrating interest. So it's like you want to go to Princeton, you want to go to Harvard, or you want to go to like any other private colleges, you're going to have to show them that you did something or you have done something prior to apply to those colleges. So why essay is really important. So it's not, I know like a majority of my application students, they do it like within a few days, but if you start doing this, if you start like checking out these school websites and you go to each department, let's say like you're interested in like mechanical engineering from MIT, then go and study the department, study the history of the MIT mechanical engineering program. So when you write this essay, as the application reader reads yours, it's like, oh my goodness, this guy did something really, really good. So that's the kind of impression that you want to give to the application reader when you do this. So the most important supplemental essay, I have no doubt in my mind, that's the why essay, right? So that's going to be really important. All right, so all the applications now, so the UC, Common App, Coalition App, and the private applications. For the private applications, now you could do early action applications. Now UCs don't do this, but if this is only for those private colleges which offer you early action applications. So when you work on your applications, now you're going to be doing two different kinds. So either early action or regular decision, or you're going to do both. I'm sorry, you're going to do both, but usually majority of the students, they're going to do the regular decision application, meaning that, as I said, like that's the regular deadline, right? But if you can do early, now that's going to give you about 25 to 35% more chance to get in. So who can do this? Well, when your high school profile is ready by September of your senior year, so you have all the GPA ready, or the grades ready, and all the test scores are ready, and extracurriculars are all ready by the September of your senior year, then yes, you could do early action application. So when you say like an early action that you want to do, then you're really going to have to be at the top of your profile. So, for example, you're interested in IBs and the Stanford, then definitely your GPA has to be like 4.6, 4.7, depending on like which major that you're going to choose, and also all the test scores are up there and all. So, but that's like an IB and Stanford. But there are like so many private colleges which offer early action application. So even like the mid-range, so it's not top tier, but it's like a mid-range private colleges, they do offer your early action. So if that's the case, and if the profile is like better than what they require, I think you should go for it. And that's because now you're gonna submit your application by like October 15th or November 1st. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna send out the acceptance letters starting from December 15th. So before you apply to other private colleges in December, now you will receive the acceptance letters from these colleges that you applied for as early. So that's going to give you a big time break, right? So, now you have like, 3 or 4 private schools that you already are admitted. So that's going to give you a lot of comfort. So that's like the safety that you have with the security that you have. And then you're going to apply for the regular decision the schools. Now, early action application, if you have a legacy, that would be so good. But the legacy meaning that your parents went to that college and they did undergraduate program, not the graduate program, but undergraduate. So if your parents went to like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, or UPenn, and they did like an undergraduate program there, then definitely you're gonna have a much better chance to get it, right? So this is about the early action application. So among the early action, there are 3 different kinds. So early action and early decision and restrictive early, or sometimes it's called the single choice early. So early action, so many schools gonna do it, right? So when you work on your Common App or Coalition app, I will show you later, and then you will see, which college offers like, the early action or early decision or restrictive early. So I'm gonna start using like the abbreviation. So early action, that's the EA. Early decision, that's the ED. Single choice, I would just say single choice. All right, so early decision, that's a binding application. So that means if you do early decision with, for example, the University of Pennsylvania, and then they admit you, you have to go there. So you have no other choice. But I've heard time to time, not so often, some parents are talking and they say, we did like an early decision with the school, but for example, like the USC gave us so good scholarship, so we shifted it. And they never got caught. But if you do early on my ED with one school, and if you don't go there, you're taking a big time risk. So I saw what I've heard, that actually people got caught. They broke the contract, because when you do ED on your application, then parents have to sign the form, and also you have to sign the form. So you are under that contract. So if you're breaking the contract, and there's a really good chance that you might get caught. So that means if they find out, then you're going to be blacklisted. So even the colleges that you are accepted, they could say, no, you can't go there, right? So it's dangerous. So, my recommendation is don't do it. I mean, so early decision, if you do it, that is going to be the school that you really, really want to go to, because you only can do it with one college alone, right? So early decision is for only one college, but you can still do early decision. I mean, you can do the early decision with one school, but you can still do early action application with other schools. So there's like no restrictions. It's just the thing is, ED is only for one college. And if you do ED, now that school is gonna try to give you a much higher chance for you to be accepted, right? And that's how the application is understood, because you're doing early decision, meaning, I mean, they would know that you're gonna be doing like other colleges, but the reason that you're doing ED is because you really wanna go to that college. So they're gonna try to, and also, as I said there, ED is a binding application. So they're gonna try to open more doors open, right, for you to come in. So ED, that's pretty good choice. But that's the case like if you know that this is the school that I really want to go to. Now, restricted early or a single choice early. Now, this is very limited school. So you can do this for only one college. So those are the colleges which offer either restrictive early or single choice early. So Boston College, the Georgetown University, Harvard, and Princeton, Stanford, and Notre Dame, and Yale. So if you choose any of these, one out of all these colleges and you do early, then you are under restricted early or single choice early. That means you cannot do any other ED or EAs. So you are doing just that school for just the early action. You're taking a lot of risk. I mean, you're really taking, it's like, you are all in to that school. So, because I've had, every year I have like 1 or 2 students who wanted to do like Stanford early. So, I talked to them about like, what they are getting into, what they were getting into, but they still wanted to do it. But Stanford early, that is really hard. So the same thing with the regular decision from Stanford, but early, it's not easy at all. So, but Stanford, out of all the Ivies and hidden Ivies and Stanford, Stanford takes the most legacy, meaning that if your parents want the Stanford, then you will have a lot more chance to get in if you do the single choice early with Stanford. So that's single choice or restricted early. All right. If anybody asks me, okay, what are the 2 important things about college applications? So what do you think? I mean, what would you say? Then, what would you say? So if I ask you, okay, what do you think are the 2 most important things about college application? And I predict like a lot of people are gonna say, definitely GPA, right? Or definitely like extracurricular activity. But as I've been helping like the many students in the past with their college applications, I have a different view. And this is why at the beginning I said that, we're gonna take a look at the college application from different perspectives and different aspects. To me, the most important thing from a person or student's college application is authenticity. So application readers for like all these top schools like UCLA, UC Berkeley, that's top, and also Ivies and Stanford, all the hidden Ivies. The thing is, if we consider like Ivies and Stanford, I would say probably like more than 90% of the students who go apply to like all these top tier schools, they're gonna share pretty much the same academic profile. So majority of these students gonna have like 4.7, 4.8 GPA. And I was watching this Chinese girl on YouTube, and she got into MIT, and she was sharing like how she got into MIT, and she was talking about her application to MIT and all. She's got like 4.83 GPA. As far as the number of APs is concerned, it's not like as many as I expected, but that's the traditional, right? That's the common thing that you're gonna see. So the thing that you're gonna have to do is this. It is like you are selling something, right? You're selling this product, but if you're just selling this product from your point of view, not the customer's point of view, but you're selling this product from the knowledge that you know about this, the chance for you to sell this product to the customer, it could be low. And that's because you are just looking at this product from your perspective. But if you're looking at this product from the customer's perspective, right, then you're not gonna just talk about the product itself, but you're gonna try to answer to the possible questions that the customer might have. So what I'm trying to say is this: the application readers, they're gonna receive so many applications every year. I think I talked about this in the last week's session. UCLA, for the past 2 years, they had over 111,000 students apply. That's a lot. I'm not sure exactly how many application readers the UCLA hired, but each application reader, he or she has to read like hundreds of them. And the thing which challenges them is the applications, it look the same. And this is not my word. I had, in my lifetime, I had 2 people whom I worked with. They did so many years of the college application reading. And one of them is actually, he is the director of the Elite San Francisco. And he's done like, I think it's six years of UC Berkeley application reading. And also when I was down in Southern California, the branch that I worked for, I had the college counselor who also did UC Berkeley, the application reading, and also some private colleges. Both of them said the same thing. Every year they did the application reading, they said it was really boring. So hundreds of them they did read, but they all look the same. So what all the application readers are looking for is application that stands out, So what can you do in order for you to make your application standing out, right? I would say authenticity. So authenticity is how genuine is your application. So as the application readers are reading your application, they want to feel that, oh my goodness, this guy is like a real him. I mean, he's speaking the truth, right? So all the activities that he has and all the test scores and all the the GPA and all, it's not just that part, but it's that and also extracurriculars, and also the essay portion, which I'm going to say the next thing. It's going to show the application readers the authenticity of like 4 years of your high school lifetime on that few pages of the application. So they're going to look for this authenticity. How real is this, right? How, through all these, how much this application can convince me so that I would say, okay, I'll let it in, or I'll let her. Authenticity. The next thing is essays. Right? So essays play very, very important role. So I've seen many cases, I've heard many cases that academic profile was all good and all, but the essay was a bummer. All right, so definitely because of the essay. Now this works especially more with the private colleges, because the UC is so one application reader reads all these hundreds of applications, and if you pass that in the application reader, then whew, you're good. So your application is gonna pass down to the department. Now, the time that application, the UC application reader takes is about like 8 to 10 minutes to finish the entire application. Isn't that sad? I mean, it's 4 years of your lifetime in high school, but they are just, reading your application within like 8 minutes of their time, and they decide whether you can go to UCLA or not. That's kind of like, right? So that is why that you're gonna have to put time and effort to try your best to make your application as good as possible. Now, essays, why is this so much important? And that is because the essay, it is a space where you can share, explain, and advocate. So this is what I meant by those students who do not have 4.5 GPA and 1,500 SAT scores, right? So when the application reader reads your application, let's say that you really messed up, like first semester of your sophomore year, and then second semester, it's like all of a sudden, then the whole situation got changed. And so you got like C's and D's in first semester, and second semester is like, oh my goodness, I mean, he's got like all these A's, what happened? So if I was your application reader, I would be very interested in what happened to the first semester of your sophomore year. So what I would do is, instead of going through like test scores, because that's how the pattern goes, GPA, test scores, extracurriculars, and your essay, that's like the general pattern of how your application is going to be reviewed. If I see anything like that, then definitely I'll go to the essays. Because there is no such thing as like a fixed policy or the regulation that application readers have to follow by, right? So I'll be looking for some sort of story, right, that this student provided to explaining what happened during that first semester of the sophomore year. So usually what happens to the students and also the parents is like, when you totally messed up your GPA in like the one semester or the entire year, it's the end of the world. So let's say that you want to do computer science at UCLA, but you kind of like had like C's and B's in the first semester, even like second semester of your sophomore year, and people could tell you, no way that you can go to UCLA. Sometimes I say that too because GPA is the most important thing, but that's the case when I do not see the other stuff, right? So the parents would say, "Hey, it was your choice, your decision. You never studied. You play video games every day for so many hours." But you know what? That's not the end of it. Essay portion, the college essays are there for you to share the challenges that you have, mistakes that you made, or the failures that you have. So remember like last time when I talked about like extracurriculars, all the essays, do not be embarrassed or to not feel afraid or to not feel fear about sharing your mistakes and failures. Rather, the colleges would love to hear your mistakes and your failures because it's not the content of it. It's not like, just what you went through, but they'll be much more interested in how you went through it and how you came out. So the essay is a space where you can share and explain and advocate. So you could say, I really messed up my GPA in my 10th grade. And because I did this and I did that, that was so stupid, but I learned my lesson. So what I did was starting from the summer of after the sophomore year, I did this and I did that. And I tried to change my habit of like playing video games for so long and watching YouTube for so long. And instead of doing that, I did this and I did that because I realized, I realized that I really should not, live my life like that. So it's like a life, lesson learning experience. That is advocacy. So that's the kind of story that the application readers want to hear or to read about. It's not like, you went to this summer program for like 2-3 weeks and you helped like building houses and also like digging wells. That's all good. And you're going to say, okay, that was a really good experience. I helped them, that's pretty good. But you have to know that you're not the only person who's going to write that kind of story for your college application. There will be tons of them. So what the college application is going to be more interested in is your personal life, right? Personal life meaning your personal and unique life. Is there something that you went through than anyone else? So it could be anything. You could be like, you got to some really low grades, or you had like some sort of like a hardship in your life or challenge in your life. Those are the things that they're going to be looking for. All right. So why is the essay so much important? And that is because it's a space where you can share, explain, and advocate. So when you do this, you can't just talk about it. Right? You're going to have some backup evidence. And that's where not just the transcript and test scores, but actual curricular activities come in. So what did you do? All right. So let's say that you were so lazy, you didn't bother take your homework to school, and so that was kind of like your pattern of your life or your personality. But if you really want to show that you are now changed, definitely the application readers want to see something that you did as you were changing, as you were transforming to the person that you are right now. All right, so you're gonna have to have a backup evidence. So one thing that you should remember is that application readers are there and they're gonna try their best to accept you, not to reject you. A lot of people have this mentality, they say like, my profile is not so good, they're gonna reject me, they're gonna reject me. Well, if you keep on saying that, yes, they're gonna reject you because you're already admitting it. But application readers gonna do their best and they're gonna try to see like every opportunity for you to come to their college, unless, your profile is like way off, right? But they're gonna do their best to accept you. So remember this, right? So as far as the writing the essays are concerned, you do not write essays to impress application readers. Why? It's going to be pretty hard because I mean, there are only like, 8 essay prompts from the UCs and 7 essay prompts from the, Common App and 5 essay prompts from the Coalition App. It's very limited. And everybody's going to choose some, and they're going to, be writing the essays about. And surprisingly, many of the essays kind of sound alike. So if you are trying to write essays and, to impress application readers, like move their heart and touch their emotion and all, unless you have very dramatic story to share, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen that easily. All right. So the thing is this: you do not write essays to impress application readers, but you write them. You write the essays to share a part of your life with them. All right. So to impress them, forget it. You're not going to do that. So how are you going to write the essays, not to impress them, but share your life? Well, any experience that you have, one more time. So you're going to have to choose right type of experience or something happened to you since the birth up to now. All right, so the college application students that I have, one of the first files that I share with them is their life timeline. Because every year I get students who just don't know how to start on their essays. And it's so obvious, and that's because, you guys are coming from like, really wealthy the environment, like in San Ramon and these areas. So you would probably like never really had any big challenges in your life unless something like dramatic happened to you. So so if your parents are good and everything was provided and you've got pretty much like everything in your life, then choosing like right essay prompt is going to be pretty hard. But that life timeline is going to help me a lot, because as I see the events happen in your life, or whether, you could think that, it was nothing, but I could say, okay, there's got to be more than what's written. So I meet with the students and discuss about that event. And then we try, if it's good, then we'll try to pick that up as the backup or the foundation for the essay prompt. So college essays can speak loud about things you could not show with your grades and test scores. So what I'm trying to say here is that test scores and grades are not everything about you, right? As far as the writing the essay is concerned, because you're much more important than your grades and test scores. Right? Grades and test scores show just a little portion of your life. So if, I'm sorry to say this, but if your parents are trying to evaluate you by like, okay, what kind of GPA that you're getting each semester and the test scores, oh, that's not good, right? You're a human being. And the reason that I'm saying this is because, as I briefly mentioned about this at the beginning, SAT programs that we run every summer, there are like people who do really well. And obviously, they're pretty smart. But there are people who are not in that group, and they're going to always struggling, right? And honestly speaking, I'm more in this group because my parents and I have one younger brother and younger sister. They are all smarter than I am, and that was like, ooh, every time when I was in high school and all, that really discouraged me. My mom and my dad, they're really smart, and my younger brother, he's not like a genius type, but he's a lot smarter than I am. So as far as like a study was concerned, I always had to study more than my younger brother and my younger sister. And obviously my grades weren't that good. And I remember when I was in second grade in elementary school, that was like really horrible experience. I got my math score and I got 60 something on my math test score. And I was so afraid to go home because I knew that I was going to get something from my mother. And my mom happened to be the high school teacher from one of the most prestigious girls' high schools in South Korea. So I was so afraid. So I was riding bus to go home. I was praying, Mom shouldn't be there. Mom shouldn't be there. But when I got home, Mom was there. So it was like, oh my gosh, I'm dead. So I was called in. She knew that I was, bringing the test score, and it was 60 something. The next thing that I saw was pillow flying on me. But you know what? The grades and test scores, I mean, it was just the one test that I got like 67, but I was treated like, oof. But you know what? Grades and test scores, it doesn't speak everything about you, right? So there's something which is much more important than test scores. That's what the application readers kind of do when they read your application, right? So your life cannot be valued or evaluated by few numbers and decimal points. You're much more valuable and important than numbers. So application readers know that, and especially the private college application readers, because it's not just the one person reading your application. Usually two people read your applications. So one person's going to be in charge over like GPA and test scores, and the other person's going to do extracurriculars and essay reading, right? And after reading your application, they're going to get together and discuss your application. And everything looks good, they agree, then your application is going to be passed down to the next stage, which is going to be department. So let's say that you applied for biology at Princeton. So they're going to do that. All right. So now, your application is passed, and now your application is at the second stage. So what's going to happen is the people from the bio department and also pretty high-ranking officers from admissions office, they're going to sit together. It's not many, they're like 2 or 3. So they're going to get together and they're going to review your application one more time. All right. So they'll talk about, so they're going to go in like a deeper insight of your applications. And when they do that, definitely they're going to be looking for your character. And they'll focus more on the extracurricular side. So if your application passed that stage, then you're going to go to the roundtable, which is going to be the final stage of the application process, and that's where like vice chair of the college or the Princeton, he's there, and all these like high-ranking people, like the chair of admissions office. So like 3 or 4 people are going to be there, and they'll discuss and they'll make the final decision. Now, when these schools do that, they try to see you as a human being, right? So as I mentioned before, like last time, Harvard and Stanford are so famous about rejecting straight A students, like 65%, and also perfect SAT and ACT test scores, because they do not want the academic robots on their campus. So when they review your application, now they're gonna try to see something unique about you, right? So why they're doing it, because the number itself, it really doesn't speak much. I mean, it is very important, obviously. I mean, you're gonna have to perform and you're gonna have to present the 4 years of your academic performance to these schools. Because, just speaking of that alone, you can't ignore your study at all. Right? I mean, because I hear a lot of cases that students coming in and I see their grades, and obviously, I mean, they just didn't study at all. They had like other things they say distracted them, but it was more like they fell into some things or something that they just love to do much more than study. So for the guys, it's like playing video games for so many hours, and girls, it's usually social media and texting and all, right? But what the application readers from the college is going to do is, I mean, everybody can make a mistake. I mean, if you don't make any mistake, you're not a perfectionist. I don't believe in perfectionists. But if you're not making any mistake, you're not a human being, all right? And one of the things that would prove that you are a human being, that's you're making a mistake, right? So they know that. So the way that they try to evaluate you or value you, not just limited to the numbers that you show, it's you, right? So write essays to yourself and for yourself, not for application readers or admissions officers. So they know whether this essay is written for them or it is actually the review of the person's life. Because you're not composing, you're not doing composition of college essays for the colleges. So this college essays are really different from the composition or the essays that you write for your AP Lang or for your English class. It is not. You're talking like presenting you as yourself to these colleges. So in a sense that you're writing a biography, right? So you're taking this portion of your life and you're sharing that portion of your life with these people whom you never saw before. So writing college essays is like, you're reviewing your life and you're looking through like past 4 years of your life in high school, and you're trying to share with these people something happened to you. And with that story that you are trying to present you to these schools and saying that, I really want to go to your school to pursue the next goal to become this person that I want to be after like 4 or 5 years after the college. So the writing essay is a review of your life. So don't try to make up story. Don't try to make it sound so good. I mean, sometimes application readers, they want to hear your story like humorous, but you could do that, but you're going to have something good. So through college essays, you should ask yourself why, what, and how. And when you could ask yourself that, those questions, then answer to yourself. So what happened? What happened in your sophomore year? What happened in your junior year? Right? And why that happened? And how that happened? Right? And how did you go through it? Or how did I go through this? Now, a lot of cases when the students try to write the hardship essay or challenge essay, they take so much space of the essay portion. So let's say 650 words, and they take up about 450 words to explain and show how horrible that experience was, how pitiful they were, how painful they were. The thing is, it's not only you who are going to have that story. There will be many of them who are going to have very similar type of experience. And they're all going to say pretty much the same thing. So what the application reader is going to be looking for is the victory story. They're going to be a lot more interested in how did you come out, or what kind of person are you now than before that happened. So that is why when you choose something like challenge or hardships in your life, you're going to have to ask yourself, that means you have to review your life. So what happened? Why that happened? And how did that happen? And the next thing is, what did I do? How did I go through this? Did I just sit around and try to blame everything on the parents or everything on someone else? Or did I really get up and did something about the situation? And when everybody told me or thought of me as that guy's a total failure, just not gonna stand up, but now I see myself that I am standing up. I am stood on the ground. I've gone through this. Right? So is that something that you did? So writing the essays is all about you. Right? So if you don't have this story, then yeah, of course you could take some other essay prompts. But remember, essays is not just to impress the application readers, but it is for you. So when you start thinking about you, then story can come out. But if you try to impress application readers, it's going to be pretty hard. So what are they looking for? You being you. You being you. So they will give you 100% understanding if you fail really big time, right? More important thing, much more important thing is, what did you do afterward? Right? So you were like that, but what are you or how are you now? You being you. So they're going to try to look at you as a person. So that's called a holistic view. They're not going to limit themselves to C and try to be impressed because of all these high GPA test scores and a lot of handsome the extracurricular activities, but they're going to try to see you as a human being, right? That's called the holistic view. So what did you live for, right? What did you live for? Was there passion in your life? What was your passion? Okay. And who did you become after 4 years of high school? What kind of person did you become after 4 years of high school? Are you still the same as from the freshman year? Or did you grow up? Are you more matured, right? So these are the type of things that the application reader is going to try to see from your application. So after reading all your application, that what they really want to say is, wow, this is a great application. You know, when I talked to the San Francisco lead director and also the counselor, college counselor that I work with down in Southern California, I asked them, like, can you remember any like really awesome essays that you read before? And the San Francisco director said that, you know what, I read like hundreds of them or thousands of them, but I can't like really remember the best essay that still like remains in my heart. I mean, you know, we read a lot of essays and there are sometimes really good essays. That's what's happening, especially like in the college applications, essay portion, because one more time, once again, they all look the same. So the task right now, if you're 11th grade, I mean, even like 10th or 9th grader, it's okay. How are you going to make your application so good that when the application readers read your application, they're going to say, wow, this is a really good application. So you messed up one semester or 1 year of grades. What are you going to do? The important thing is what the application reader is going to say to you is, okay, we see that. What we really want to see is where you started from and where you ended it at. So you were here, and we definitely see that, but where are you now? So you got all these bad grades in like, you know, sophomore year, but we're looking at the end of the junior year and, you know, the senior year. Where are you now? So they want to see changes, right? So to them, result is important. Yes, result is important, but more important to them or for them is the process. So what did you do? How did you change this path? How did you change the days from that messed up until today? And that's called the process. So they're going to be much more interested in process, and the process is called progress. Progress. Process meaning that you go through this thing and there could be nothing happen. You're just going through it. Just going through it is not a process. Process meaning that you are progressing. So are you progressing? Did you really mess up your GPA last year, or even like, you know, the fourth semester, and you had like really high hope about this semester? You studied like really hard, and all of a sudden the coronavirus thing happened, and now you're going to be ended up with the first semester grade from your 10th grade or 11th grade, and now you're discouraged and you're kind of like worried that what's going to happen to my application to the colleges, because, you know, second semester I studied like really hard, but nothing really happens. So if you do that mindset, it's not going to be anything good, right? So what can you do to make a progress? Then you're going to be looking for other opportunities, right? So, you know, what happened to what happened? And fortunately, the college is not going to consider the GPA or like, you know, the grades from the second semester of this year, which is good, but they're going to look at the cumulative GPA. So the first semester of 10th grade, if it is the private colleges, then definitely 9th grade. And you have one more year, like, you know, 11th grade. If you're at 11th grade right now, then obviously if you're doing the private colleges, then you have first semester, your senior year. But what colleges might want to see, what would want to see is, what did you do during this COVID-19 time, right? So if your grades are not too strong, that even though, let's say the college is not going to be so much interested, or they're not going to care about the second semester grades, but during the summertime, you try to do something, right? So, you know, to boost up your GPA, that you know, search around and you try to take like more AP classes online, or you try to take like college level classes from like DBC or some other like a community college. Show something that you did to make progress. That's what they are interested in, instead of like, you know, sitting around doing nothing. Hey, you know, college is not going to care about my second semester. Wow, it's good. That's not, right? Achievement. So the progress meaning that you are achieving something. So that's something you're going to have to show. So, I mean, I talked about this. So the thing is, progress and achievement show how you deal and manage hardships and challenges in your life, right? progress and achievement show how you deal and manage hardships and challenges in your life. A lot of cases when the students come in with the parents, and parents get like so frustrated because they're getting like pretty bad grades, and sometimes it's the test scores, but a lot of cases, did you know that they are getting like bad grades because they simply are not turning in their homework? So I asked them, okay, what happened? And many of them said like, I forgot. Phew. I mean, I'm forgetting a lot of things these days, but I'm a lot older than you, right? But you guys are young. How can you forget your homework when you go to school, right? I'm just wondering, I have a legitimate reason. I mean, you maybe, but you know what? That's called the ignorance. And that ignorance or that neglect could give you a big time, high price invoice. And if you don't do anything about that, in like 1.5 years, when you start working on your college application, it could like really draw tears out of your eyes, right? So if that's you, please change the habit, right? So progress and achievement, that's really important. Are you stressed out with your test scores? I mean, your parents are sending you here for the SAT, ACT prep this coming summer. Are you stressed out, or you already done like SAT or ACT and the scores are not so good, and you're like, oh gosh, how can I like really improve my scores? Are you stressed out? Well, for the colleges, definitely they're going to be looking for some like set scores for them to admit you. But what they're going to be more interested in is show your best effort. And I think that the UCs, they're going to ask you to submit all the SAT scores. And one of the reasons I think, why they're doing it is because they want to see the progress, right? But don't do the real SAT or real ACT for practice. I've had like several students who've done that in the past. No, you don't do practice the real test, right? So you have to prep first. But are you going to say like, Mr. Is that going to like really show the progress? No, you don't want too low score, right? Especially like UCLA, UC Berkeley, or other UCs. So you have to prep and then then take the real test. But as far as the test scores are concerned, show your best effort, okay? And that's what I meant by like a lot of students who are not going to be able to get like 1550 or perfect SAT score, ACT score, because it's not going to be there. I mean, if I was in high school right now, and let's say like I studied for the SAT or ACT, would I be able to get the like 1570? I doubt it. I don't think I would. I don't think I could. And that's because this is not out there. So probably the maximum that I could go for maybe is like a 1520, 1530-ish, because back when I was in like a high school, I had this study habit, right? And so I studied quite a bit, a lot, and I always put my effort to it. But I could go up. I mean, the first thing that I would do is just put my effort to it, right? So show your best effort. Do the maximum, right? Go for the highest. And if that's the highest that you can go for, you could speak about that. You can talk about it on your college essays. There's no shame about like talking about how not smart you are, but you've done this much, and this is the accomplishment, and this is the achievement that you have from the 4 years of your high school, right? So your potentials. What are the potentials you have? Actually, this is something that a lot of college application readers are going to try to find out, right? Potentials. So the thing is this: how would you know whether you have what kind of potential in you or not? Or do you even care? Well, your parents do, and I do, because that's going to speak so much about you. Now, we speak about like potentials, and you wonder like, okay, what kind of potential do I have? But that potentials you're not going to find out unless you are facing or you are faced with some challenge or hardship in your life. Because when everything is going well, when everything is provided, when everything looks good and everything looks safe, there's no potential that you're going to have to put them out, right? Because things are just rolling on. So automatically, just things are going. But when hardship comes, when difficult time comes, that's when potentials are found, right? So the coronavirus time, this is another big, I think, example that we can use. This is the kind of virus that, we are not like familiar with, and try to see like, all these scientists and the health organization that they're trying to make the vaccine for the coronavirus. It's not coming out like, within a few weeks or so. And we are faced with this, the pandemic of the disease that the entire humanity, we're trying to find something. So what we're doing is we're trying to see the potentials that we have to overcome this coronavirus, the potential. So all the time, the potentials are manifested when you are challenged. So don't be afraid of getting challenged. Right? Don't be afraid of going through some difficult times. Because if that's not there, then it's not going to happen. And the thing is, when you read the world's like the most successful people in the world, almost like everybody had really difficult times in their lives, tremendously difficult times. Abraham Lincoln, before he became I think he's the 16th president, right? So before he became the president of the United States, he had 17 dramatic failures in his life. Almost like everything he tried, he always failed. But the first time, well, I don't want to say last, but finally, he became the president of the United States, and he is one of the most respected presidents in the United States. So the thing is, don't be afraid of like facing the difficulties. And when you have this hardship or some dramatic and traumatic stories that you have or experience that you have, do not just whine about, do not just the blame on that situation for the situation about the situation, and do not try to blame things on the parents. And in fact, that's what I used to do when I was in high school, when I was in college, and just sharing my story. I think some of you guys might have heard my story before. I came to the States when I was 15 and a half years old, so I started from 10th grade. Now, that was the first time that I faced the biggest challenge in my life, and you could imagine what it was. That was a language barrier. Now, when I came to the States, there was only one goal I had in my heart, and that was becoming a surgeon. I really wanted to become a doctor. And the reason that I wanted to become a doctor was not for any other reasons, but I really want to go to like places like Africa and help people. And that was because when I was second grade, I was reading this person's biography, and it really touched my heart. I was just a second grade, right? And the person's name was Dr. Albert Schweitzer from Germany. And he was the Christian missionary to Africa. And I mean, he lived so many years there. He cured like so many people there. It really touched my heart. And since then on, I was getting serious. So one day I told my parents, Mom and Dad, I want to become a doctor. And they were really happy, typical Asian parents. And they didn't have to force me to become like a lawyer or like a doctor or something, because I already chose my decision, or I already chose to be a doctor. Now, the thing was, an interesting thing started to happen when I was fourth grade. Now, that was the time that my mom forced me to change my school from this elementary to that elementary school. And I mean, later I found out that the elementary school that I used to go to, my mom told me that they were having like a lot of problems. So she had to move me out of the school and put me in the school. And the new school there, where I went to, that was the school that my sister was going. But the first day when I was, in that school, I was so stressed out. And as I was going to the school more and more and more, so the thing was, I wasn't like really extroverted type of person. So it was really difficult for me to adjust myself to a new environment. And that school just happened to be either number 1 or number 2 elementary school in South Korea. So it's not like the kids are like really super smart, but it's the family background. So when I saw my friends and their father and their mothers, like, wow, I mean, my friend's father was like a minister of some department of Korean government, and they were like first 1, 2, 3 stars from like Army, Navy, and Air Force. But my father was just he was a successful business person, but he wasn't like really up there So as I was looking their like resume, I got so infuriated, right? And I got so like intimidated. And it's just 3 years, that elementary school lifetime, it was really horrible. And starting from the fourth grade, and another strange things started to happen to me. That was like, every year I did some sort of sports, and every time when I did some sport, I broke my arm. I broke my bones. And my mom got so sick and tired of it. I don't know why I did that, but now I broke my bone, and now I go to the hospital and they take the X-ray on me, and I'm looking at my bone X-ray. You know how excited that I was becoming. The first time, I think I still can remember it. It was my this hand that I broke, and I was looking at my X-ray, and I didn't say it outside, but inside, wow, that's my bone. I got so excited. And I was so grateful and thankful that I was breaking my bone every year, because I was going to the hospital every year and looking at this X-ray machine and put the X-rays on that thingy, and it was so fascinating. And something happened during the winter break when I was 5th grade, and my cousin came over, and he and we were like playing in the house like crazy. And so it was during the winter time, and definitely Korea winter is pretty cold. So we had socks on, and we were like running around the house. And I jumped on this tea table, but I didn't know that was that slippery. So I slipped, flew in the air, and just crushed on the ground. And literally, I'm not lying, the entire house shook, and everybody came out. And I landed on my arm like this. It was tremendous pain, but I couldn't say a word. And that was because I had already too many broken bones. So my mom came out, and I said, Mom, I'm okay. And I held this pain for 3 days, and I couldn't do that anymore. So I finally called my mom at work, and we went to our family doctor, and they took the X-ray on it. And guess what happened? It was completely broken. And doctor was surprised that I held the pain for 3 days. But they found something else. About this much portion in my upper bone was empty inside. But as you know, when you take the X-ray of your bone, it should look like beehive, right? But about this much portion was empty, and doctors were saying that they didn't know why that happened. But one thing they knew for sure was that when I reached at the age of 18, then I would not be able to use my arm. So they had to do the bone transfer surgery. My mom was like really stressed out. It's not because this is another broken bone, but my family was going through a pretty big time financial crisis, during those years. And having a surgery, it's like really big surgery. I don't know about these days, but when I was little, that was like very expensive surgery. So I was stressed out because I knew a little bit about what my father and my mom was going through financially. But the doctor said that miracle can happen. So I checked in every month, once a month, and they took the X-ray on it. And every time when I went to hospital to the X-ray, it was like I was going picnic. I was so happy. But nothing really happened. And during the winter break, when I was 6th grade, I had a call from the hospital saying that they had bones, so they wanted me to check in. And the thing is, my mom was she was worried, right? It's not just because of the hospital fee, but now I'm getting really big, the surgery. But I was heavenly excited, so excited that I was getting surgery. And so surgery day is the next day, I couldn't sleep because I was so excited. I was so happy that I was getting surgery. On the surgery operation day, I walked into operation room. And nurses, they got oh my goodness, who is this boy? And so I walked in and I checked every tool on the operation table, and I was just taking all this great time. And finally, they put me on bed, and the surgery was a 6.5 hours. So it was successful. But what happened was it was after 4 days after the surgery. It was strange that one person who was supposed to be there from the beginning wasn't there, but every adult from my family came and see me, except that person. That was my dad. And so I asked my mom, well, Mom, where's Dad? And she said, well, the dad's on the business trip because he was a businessman and he used to go to on the business trip. So I thought so. But one day I was sleeping, taking a nap, and adults were there in my hospital room, and they were talking about my dad, and I overheard what happened to him. And what happened to him was that he got involved with something, and the Korean CIA was after him. And we're speaking about Korean CIA, not American CIA. And I knew that, I was really worried. And about 2 days later, I still can picture, it's so vivid right now, even years ago. It was snowing outside, and I woke up, it was around 1 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up out of pain, and I got up, and I saw a person sleeping on the couch, and there wasn't supposed to be anybody. And guess who that person was? That was my dad. And my dad risked his life to come and see me. He did not have to. And I knew it, even though I was alone, I knew how dangerous that was. And that night, when I was looking at my dad, I cried so much. So I wanted to become a doctor because I really wanted to help people. But that night, I had one more reason, that I not wanted to become a doctor only, but that I had to become a doctor. And that was my dad. And later, years after, my dad talked to me about what happened to him. So a few days or a week after that he got caught by the Korean CIA, and he was taken down to the basement of the Korean CIA, this building, and he's got beat up for so many days, and he couldn't go to the public bath. I'm not sure whether the Indians have the same the thing or not, but he couldn't go to the public bath for the next 2 years because of the bruises that he had on his body, So that time, it added another very strong reason that I really wanted to become a doctor. So when I came to the States, I couldn't think of anything else but going to medical school. That was my dream, that was my vision, and that was my passion. So it's not bragging about me, but it's a language barrier. So, when I try to do the homework, when everyone else is doing in 1 or 2 hours and they're done with the homework, but now I had to do 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 hours just to finish my homework. And that's not it. Now I had to study for my classes because, I couldn't get anything done, or I couldn't understand the entire lecture, so I had to study. So every day, I think I studied 7 to 9 hours, or sometimes 10 hours each day. And so when I graduated from high school, the GPA was good enough, and SAT score was just good enough to go to UCLA. And so I went to UCLA. My parents were really proud of me. So I went to UCLA, and the funny thing was that I only applied to 2 schools, in UCLA, and there was this college called the Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And I visited the campus because my family friend is living in Hartford, Connecticut, and so she showed me the campus around. I just fell in love with the campus. So I wanted to go there, but my GPA was okay, and guess what was not okay? SAT. Math was okay, but English was not good. So I got the rejection letter, right? So now I went to UCLA, but one thing that I didn't know was I never knew that there were so much of distractions waiting for me to go through. And the thing was, when I was in my high school, we had about 30 Koreans on campus, and we're pretty tight, we're pretty close. But when I went to UCLA, there were 1,000 Koreans. And I just happened to be one of the most popular Koreans on campus. And I got involved with this activity and that activity. It's I was like a little fish in this little pond. Now I'm this big fish in a big ocean. And I was having so much good time. And I forgot something. I forgot the most important reason why I was there. So after the first quarter of freshman year, I know this is not a good story to share. I got my first F in chemistry class. And that was the first chemistry class. And guess what my major was? Biochemistry. It was a bummer. And the reason was I never went to class. It was an 8 o'clock class, but I never went to class. And the reason that I didn't go to class is because there were lecture notes that I could purchase from the student store. Gosh, I mean, I just couldn't imagine that I did that. And the first quarter, the grades were all messed up. Right? And after the first quarter, oh my goodness, I cried a lot because I couldn't even imagine that I could even try to prepare myself furthermore to go to medical school. No way. With those grades, no way. And there was no elite back then. I wish there were, and somebody, would have told me like, hey, Sam, that's not everything about you. You could, start all over with some. So second quarter started, and I kind of like started pretty good. And I was like in top fives in like bio class I was taking, and also chemistry class that I was taking, but same thing happened. And I got more involved with the Korean, like, student association activities, and then I bombed on the grades again. And after the second quarter, I got the letter from the chairman of the biochem department. And so he and I was sitting, and the chairman was asking me, Sam, what's going on with your life? And I had like no words to say, because she said, I'm looking at your high school performance and the UCLA's, and it's not you. I don't know what's going on. And I couldn't say a word because I was just fooling around. I was just having too much fun and too much good time. And he said, like, all right, so if you don't do well this spring semester or spring quarter, then you'll be kicked out of the school. So that was like, a long call. And so I did study and I got out of the probation. But after the first year, I was looking at my transcript and I got so depressed because there was no way for me to go to medical school at all. And I got so depressed, I got so discouraged that I couldn't see any way out. And it was like I had to make a decision whether I should give up like pre-med or my dream to become a doctor or not. And I was just struggling. I couldn't even discuss it with my parents because I was having a pretty hard time with my father, especially. Communication-wise, it was just too difficult for me to communicate with them at all. So I just kept everything inside and I couldn't handle all the pressure. So you're gonna have to forgive me sharing this. July of that summer, I tried to commit suicide because I really couldn't see anything out. But it failed, right? So the second year started, but I really couldn't catch up or I just couldn't do that. And that was because the entire first year is already messed up. So when you mess up the entire year in college, especially like you're doing pre-med or engineering or something, it's gonna be really hard, right? So I tried the second year, but it really didn't work out. So I was having like a lot of arguments with my parents. So after finishing up with my second year, I told my parents I'm dropping out. I really don't see the importance of getting the college diploma. So my father was furious, obviously, and I got kicked out of the house. And here I was on my own, and I was like about 19, 20 years old, and now I had to make a living on my own. And I applied for 5 different jobs for full time, but I got all rejected. And because all these 5 companies were asking one thing in my life, which I never had, which I didn't have, that was college diploma. And that was another time that I felt like, okay, the world is not friendly at all. So I ended up getting 5 different part-time jobs. And when I talk about this, I get emotional. It was really hard. It was a very hard life. And working 5 different part-time jobs, I mean, it's not easy at all, especially like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that you have to work the graveyard shift. It's not easy. And I was the security guard dispatcher for IBM building in Santa Monica in Southern California. And when my next shift guy doesn't show up, I have to stay for him. And there were like so many days and nights. I worked like 25 to 28 hours straight without getting any sleep. And it's not just 1 day or 2 days, but so many. That was pretty hard. And the money that I was making was not even close to the full-time job, right? So that was like real time, the time that I realized how bitter the world was. It wasn't easy at all, right? And so I got like more depressed and discouraged. And then I decided to like really mess up my life. And I chose wrong decisions. I chose wrong pathway to walk. So I gave up on my life. And for the next like 3.5 years, it was like every day I just screwed up my life. I messed up my life. I lived that kind of life for 3.5 years. And finally something happened and I shook up and I came back to my senses, and then I went back to UCLA and tried to finish the degree. But when I went back to UCLA, I really wanted to restart. And I wanted to do the pre-med one more time, but I had to give that up. And the reason that I had to give that up was because I couldn't see the passion that I used to have. And after years of messing up and giving up and having like no hope to live for so many years, and here I was, I wanted to retry things. I didn't have passion, because passion, what I learned was passion was the motor. Passion was like an atomic, the force which drove me to go through high school. Because I mean, think about like studying for 9-10 hours every day, and you're learning languages, and you are trying to adjust to this very brand new environment, just like, you know, your parents, first generation American, first generation Indian, right, or Chinese. It was really hard, but the reason that I was able to do that was because there was a passion in my heart. But when I went back to UCLA and I tried to search through my mind or my heart and try to find if there was a passion, I couldn't see that. So if I chose to walk on that path one more time, I knew I was going to fail. So I gave up. But one thing that I did not know was that years after, I would be given the opportunities for me to travel around the world and visiting all these poor areas and ghettos where I would meet like these kids and teenagers and people who are suffering with poverty and sicknesses. So it was like in a Christian mission thing that I was involved, and you know, it was short time, so we went there and we, you know, supplied with all the supplies and all. But the thing that hurt me the most was when I had to leave these children with sickness, because I really couldn't do anything. And on the way back home in the plane, I cried so much. I cried so much out of anger. I cried so much out of blame, not on anyone else, but on myself. I cried so much about this stupid the decisions that I made. I cried so much because when the things were not going the right way, or when the things were not like really standing, you know, for me or on my side, that I felt like, you know, the things were not fair, the life was not fair, the world was not fair. And to respond back to the situation or the people, I always chose the stupid decisions. So all these years like that I wasted, right, that just came on me. And there was like this tremendous regret that I had. And it was really hard, because leaving these little children with sickness, I mean, these little boys and girls were sick, and I was meeting with this, you know, the teenagers that were, as it was really painful. And I hated myself. Why did I do that? Why did I choose wrong way, wrong decision? And here I was, I had to give up the dream that I had for so long for some stupid reasons. I mean, I was doing pretty good work. I mean, you know, going there and helping people, it was all good. But that was, I think, the first time when I realized that I missed something that I could have done, and I would have been so happy. But that's not there. So that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. You can make whatever decisions today. And if you're going through some difficult time and hardship in your life, you could blame. I mean, if the reasons are thoroughly understood that it's not your fault, but it could be your parents or someone else's, the normal thing is that, yes, you could blame the things on whoever, or you could blame things on that situation or whatever, right? But that's what like normal people would do. But one thing that you wouldn't know is if you do that, and you're gonna lose something very, very important and very, very valuable. So if you keep on going like this, there will be a day in future that you will have that opportunity for you to do something, but you're not gonna be able to do something because you don't have it. You're not equipped. So if you're struggling with your grades, if you are being lazy, if you don't have that strong like desire in academics, if there's like any way that I could change you, I would take that. Because one of the most powerful moments, that experience that I had, that education had power, was about 20 or 15 years ago when I was asked by the brother of my friend, his name is Steve Kwan, and he asked me to join his team and go to Afghanistan because of his project. And Steve Kwan, back in those years, was working for the Nestle. I'm pretty sure that you guys know Nestle. Nestle, not just the coffee makers, but like this big, gigantic entity enterprise in the world, the global enterprise. And he was the director over infant nutrition department. And he's a Korean American, but he came to the States after finishing up his undergraduate program. So he went to one of the brand name schools in the East Coast, and he got master's and PhD. And now he was working for Nestle, which was the branch in Los Angeles. So he contacted me and said, like, Sam, would you want to go to Afghanistan? And so he told me what was happening. And the thing was, one day he was reading the LA Times, and this one article completely caught his attention. And that article was saying that 25% of the Afghanistan young women were dying because of malnutrition after giving birth. So Steve Kwan, director over infant nutrition department, definitely that story caught his attention. So from then on, for a few months, he did a lot of studies, and he came up with this project that he could save lives in Afghanistan, those women's lives. So it's called the Soybean Project, and it's not just to save the lives, but back in those, it's still the same thing. But Afghanistan farmers were growing the opium to make a living, and also the terrorist groups back in those years were also very strong and powerful, and they were like promoting farmers to do that. But Steve had a solution for that problem. So now his project was all completed, and so he reached out to the Afghanistan governments. Back in those years, Afghanistan had 18 states. So he sent a letter out to all the 18 states, and one state government was interested in it. So he went over there and he did a presentation, and everybody who was there, they were so fascinated. But the next thing that he said after presenting his project, he said, well, since the Afghanistan does not grow or farm the soybeans, but we're not going to import soybeans from outside because that's kind of way too expensive. So they said that what we're going to do is we're going to grow or farm the soybeans inside the country. And when they heard this, they all shook their heads. No way, Dr. Kwan, no way, that's not going to happen. So he asked them why. And they said 30 years prior, they did that. They tried it, and it was 100% failure. So they did test on their soil, and the result was the Afghanistan soil was not so good for soybean farming. So they knew it. It's a scientific stat or the data they had. But Steve, he insisted because he had a conviction in his heart that he had to bring this project in to save the woman's lives. So they let him, and he did it. And guess what happened? 100% success. People didn't know why. So now the news got out, and the federal government of Afghanistan was interested in his project. So that's the time that Steve called up the other two people and I So we were all together as a team. So it was 7 days presentation, but there was one condition though. There were like 2 representatives from each state government, so all 36 people, and the condition was that all 36 have to say yes to this project. If one person says no, then no project at all. So it was pretty harsh. But as we were doing the presentation, I mean, people were just soaked in, right? They were just soaked in, and they loved it. And the last day, we all went out and we taught them like how to do soybean farming and all. And every day, every night, we had the review meeting, right? And so it was Wednesday night, and we were having the meeting, and Steve all of a sudden, he stopped the meeting and said, do you know why the Afghanistan federal government is interested in this project? And we were like, what are you talking about? This is like a really awesome, really, really good project. And he said, anybody could have done this. And I thought about that, and it's true, anybody could have done this. And why him? Why this, his project? And the next thing that he told me, just one word, and that was like, I was like hammered by this big hammer. He said, Nestle. Do you get this? Nestle. It wasn't just the quality and awesome thing about his project, but this gigantic enterprise was backing him up. And Afghanistans, they saw that. It's not just this project, but the company out there, company which was backing him up. That was, in fact, my first time seeing the power of education. And the second thing was, wow, if anybody has the academic ability, then they should go for the high as possible. Because Steve he had this authority in his field. And the influence and impact that he was able to put on was not just a few people from a community, but it was thousands and thousands. So from then on, he worked in Afghanistan for the next like 10 or 15 years, and he saved so many lives. So that's the message that I want to convey to you. When you say you want to become a doctor, why you want to become a doctor, all right? And you want to become a doctor, be a doctor. And the pathway for you to become a doctor is not going to be easy at all. You will have a lot of challenges. The path is not easy, because I was doing like biochem and I know what it's like. And taking like 5 AP classes in high school is no comparison with like upper division science classes that you were taking in UCLA. And it's going to be rough road. But are you ready to face any kind of challenge to go through and become that person that you want to be later on? That's the value. That's the value. So show the colleges the value you hold inside. That is a driving power in your life, right? If you don't have it, get it now. Get it now. Don't want to study? Think about becoming somebody. Now I share my story. Hopefully, this can speak to you, speak to your heart, right? So what is the value? What is the worldview that you have? Worldview is the way that you read and translate the things happening in this world. What kind of worldview that you have? Are you reading the world and are you getting discouraged or depressed? Or are you just like those people who always complain and blame? Or do you have this mindset that it's like a coronavirus thing that's happening? When the things pretty bad things are happening, would you be willing to go through? Would you be willing to take this upfront position and go through? That's the worldview. What kind of worldview that you have? One most pitiful thing in anyone's life, and I'm one of this, one most pitiful thing that you can see from anyone's life is not learning a thing from your mistake or failure. And I lived that life for so long. And because of that, I had to give up the dream that I had, the passion which was moving me up, which was getting me going. So worldview, this is really, when you present your world or worldview to the application readers, they are looking for that kind of essay. They are looking for that kind of application. mouse. Who like mouse? Nobody does, especially the women, especially the girls. When little mouse is there, then they jump on the table. I mean, it's like screaming and steaming pot. I mean, you put the pot and water in it and you boil it, and then you're gonna see the steam out. What do you think of that steaming pot? Lightning? I mean, sometimes it's the lightning happen. But there were people in this world who saw mouse and who saw that steam out of the pot and who saw lightning, and they literally changed the world. And the first person who saw a mouse, and he invented this character. And this character has been the motto, this character's mascot, this character's been the hope to so many children in the world. And guess who that person is? Walt Disney, Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse. Everybody sees mouse. Everybody sees mouse or mice. They would never think of that. But Walt Disney's worldview, the view of looking at mouse, was very, very different. The steam out of the pot. There was one person who saw steam out of this boiling pot, and he invented this machine, which was, I believe that was second industrial revolution, which started in Britain. And his name is James Watt. So he was just looking at the steam coming out of the pot, and he invented steam engine. Lightning. I mean, you see that all the time. So when the lightning happens, the thunder happens, so you get scared. But there was one person in America who saw lightning, and he did further study, and he invented electricity. His name is Benjamin Franklin. It's your worldview. It's like how you look at things. It's how you view things. So it all comes from your mindset. If you believe, if you keep on telling yourself that I'm no good, I'm not going to be up there. If I compare with John, John's really smart, and I cannot be smart as him. And there's no way that I could get like perfect GPA, or there's no way for me to get like 1500 SAT. You will not, and that's because the worldview that you have. But that worldview can change, or it could be changed as you change your mindset. Remember, I told you, you're much bigger and you're much more important. You're much more valuable than just the numbers. So if you are, then now you have to take this process and make it progress and achieve and show not just to the colleges, show to your parents and show to your world, show to yourself that I am much more, you're much more, or you're much bigger than just few numbers. Can you make that story? It's not something like an extra curricular activities that you do, awesome activities from like, Princeton, Harvard, or Yale or Stanford. But can you make that story out of yourself, right? And if you can do it, and if you share that story with college, they will let you in. If they don't, it's their big loss. So that's the kind of application that we're looking at. So what did you do? Or what would you want to do to change your status quo? Is this year better than last year? Do you see progress, improvement, growth, and change from last year? So the thing is, you may be slower than others. Right? You may be slower than others. But the important thing is, you do not give up. Do not give up. Once you give up, you will build the habit of giving up later on. Once you avoid the situation or a situation, and you try to find the short way or shortcut to do something, that challenge, that difficult time will always follow you. And I'm speaking out of my own experience. Don't give up. So you may not be smart as your friends, right? And your grades may not reach at their level. That's okay. But you go for your goal. You go for your whichever place that you want to go up to or want to be. The important thing is you do not give up. And one thing that you're going to be amazed is once you start doing that, you're going to see what kind of potential that you have inside. When you find one potential and you try and make progress one after another, that potential is going to grow, grow, grow. And one day when you look back, you're going to be so amazed how much you grew with your potentials. Now I'm going to share with this last story. Now the application part, I think I have to do it next time. There is a person in Korea, and I forget his first name, but he's a Dr. Kim or Mr. Kim. And he is one of like really, well-going person. So he was making a lot of money. He was working for this like really big the enterprises. And but one day he was contacted by this group of people who wanted to build the technological school in China. And that was for not just the Chinese, but also Korean Chinese living in China, this region, like a northern or the eastern part of China. So they came and they like presented what they wanted to do and how the school's going to be and all. And they wanted to invite Mr. Kim as the first principal over that technical college or the school. But the thing with the condition was that the pay was not even 1,000th of what he was making. Right? But his heart was moved. He was like really driven so strongly, and he wanted to go. But there was one stumbling block, and that was his father-in-law, because his father-in-law was a very popular or very strong the politician in South Korea. So he knew that it was going to be pretty hard to convince him. So he just went ahead and then talked to his father-in-law and explained like what happened. And he said like I wanted to go, so can I go? But he said no, I'm not going to send you, especially my daughter, to that that kind of area. No way. But because he was so insisting, his father-in-law made like a little condition with him and said, well, I'm going to give you 1 week. So afterward, you come back and we'll talk. And if you convince me, then I'll let you go without any condition. So Mr. Kim went back home, and for the next 7 days, I mean, he tried to tried to come up with the best solution to convince his dad, but he couldn't. I mean, there was like no other thing that he could come up with to convince him. So after 7 days, he just went there. And so his father-in-law, he was sitting in the living room, and Mr. Kim said, Dad, if I stay in Korea, I'm making what 5,000 people can make a year in 1 month. But if I go to China and take that position, then I could save 5,000 people per month. Does it make sense? And when this father-in-law heard that, he couldn't say any word, so he let him go. You see what you can do when you're up there. And he was the first principal, and I think he did like the next few terms, and that technology school still exists. And they've been producing a lot of people, educating people, equipping them with the technology skills. And these boys and girls who really didn't have any jobs, but this tech school was almost like a free tuition. And the students came in, they learned, and they equipped, they went out. I mean, they could be living just a normal life, but just think about what this school did. You could be that person. It's just a matter of what kind of dream and vision and passion that you want to have. So don't underestimate you. Remember, the colleges are interested in you being you. And you haven't found anything yet about yourself. It doesn't matter what your parents have been telling you. It's been like all negative things, right? But you're gonna have to take this journey to find out who you are and who you could be and what kind of potentials that you have and how you're gonna develop or pioneer and develop that potential that you have and later like impact the lives in this world. So don't give up. You still have a lot more time. If you're a 10th grader, you have like on an 11th grade and like 1.5 more years to make it. If you're 11th grader right now, then you have like this summer and the first semester. For UCs, I mean, you only have a few months, but think about what you can do. And a lot of people who got into the UCs, they started something from the summer after junior year as an extracurricular activity, and they got it. Right? So think about it. And I did a lot of trainings today. But I think this is something that many of the students should hear about, and it's not easy for me to share about like the failures and the mistakes that I've made in my past time. But I really want you guys to be different. And because I grew up in this country and had experiences like not so many people like you go through, the challenges and also the difficulties that you might be going through right now, probably I could understand. Not exactly the same thing that I went through or you might be going through, but it's all similar, right? But out of all this, I mean, it's you. So you have to be you, and you're gonna have to make it, all right? So for the applications and all, I think I'll do the next time. I apologize, but next time we'll take a look at the applications, and we'll go a little bit deeper inside, and you will see what kind of things that you're gonna have to fill out. You see Common App and also Coalition App. And as I was saying at the beginning, I mean, everything about your life, the 4 years, or sometimes it's much more than 4 years, it's going to be all narrowed down, and it's going to be written on the few pages of the application. So it's going to be exciting. All right, so if anybody has any questions, this is a good time to ask. But if you don't, then we'll see you next time. Once again, I apologize for not being able to cover everything that I prepared. I'm trying to put up the previous videos on YouTube. I try to do it through the Google Drive, but somehow it's not working that well. So like tomorrow I'll work on it, and then I'll put the videos for part 1 and part 2, and also this video on the online, and so that you could have an access and get more information about the seminars that I did past 2 times. And also, I really want to ask you to share the links with your friends or family members, right? So that's one of the ways that we could reach out to more students for the opportunities that you could have as far as test prep and also college application, college consultation is concerned. For the summer program, now I'll be sending out the email message probably tomorrow about the SAT subject and SAT. As you know, that the College Board canceled the June test. So some of you guys are doing the SAT subject test prep right now. So I'm just waiting for the headquarters lead to come out with the final decision. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to have some extended program so that you could continue and go for an August test. So if you're doing an AP and also you're signed up for the SAT subject, don't give up. Don't stop. Just wait until my email, and then we'll definitely help you to continue preparing and go for the August test or October test. And the summer program, unless something really happens, I mean, there's good talks going on, and we might be open for in-class program, but if not, the headquarters is preparing everything online, and we're taking, testing different devices and try to make the class quality as good as in-class structure. And so I don't really see that much trouble, but I think if this thing goes on, then we might have to do everything online. If it is not, still we're going to have the in-class and also the online course. So for that, also wait for my emails for the instructions and for the notice. Okay. So one more time, is there anybody have any questions? Okay. All right, so once again, I really want to thank you for joining today's the seminar, and I will hope that the sharing of my testimony of my lifetime story been a little bit more helpful, for you to understand your children or your child, or if you're a student right now, then somewhat you're encouraged or motivated in a way. All right, so please, the Isha's gonna send out another the Zoom, the seminar invitation email. So please sign up for the next one. And also, I said for the next week's seminar, I'm still preparing for study skill and time management. So we'll see that. So please sign up for the seminar, and I'll see you next time then. And I know it's almost 2 hours. And I just want to thank you for your patience, that sitting there and listening to my story. I really appreciate that. All right, thank you very much, and then I'll see you next time, and stay healthy. Okay, all right.
Thank you.